Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Hannah and welcome. It is the 1st of November today, which means that in 17 days, the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is releasing in theatres. Now, I am just a bit excited for this movie. I can't wait to watch it. It looks really good. I've watched all the trailers that have come out so far. The only thing that I haven't done is read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I've had this book on my shelf and I just haven't picked it up. I haven't felt the need to pick it up, but now with the movie coming out, I think this is the perfect time to read this book. Obviously the movie isn't out yet. I'm going to read the book first, and then when the movie comes out, I'm going to go watch it and I'll give my thoughts on the movie and the book and whether it was a good adaptation or not. I'm basically just going to do a bit of a reading vlog style video with you guys. Now, if you don't know what The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is, let me just quickly explain. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is basically a prequel to the original Hunger Games trilogy. This is essentially President Snow's background story, his origin story, and it is also set in the POV of President Snow. I have actually started reading this book. I started it last night. I am only one chapter in though because I had to go to bed. I had a bedtime, you know how it is in adult life, you have your bedtimes. I am really enjoying this book though. I think it's very interesting. We've seen a part of the Hunger Games we've never seen before, and I think it will expand on the world really nicely. My favorite part of this book is this. Look at how cool that is. And also on the inside, it's got the snake going across it. Filmed the update for another video. You can go watch that video if you want. Oh, it's not out yet. Silly me. Subscribe if you want to see the video I just filmed the update for. Anyway, I want to talk about this book real quick. I am loving this book so much. So I will be completely honest, I was quite skeptical of this book at first when I started reading it, just because I feel like we've already seen the Hunger Games so much, as in the actual games, that I wasn't sure how it would be fresh and interesting to read a third or fourth time round, whether you see Mockingjay as like a Hunger Games. But I am so pleased to say that this book is very refreshing. It's really interesting to read. I'm having so much fun reading it. What is so interesting about this book is they're basically showing you how the Hunger Games started and how archaic they were compared to what they are now. I always thought that it was Cornelius Snow. I genuinely thought the main character of this book, President Snow, was Cornelius Snow. Then, when I was reading this book, I actually looked at his name properly and I said, that's not Cornelius, the N is not in the right place. Coriolanus. I'm assuming that's how you say it, Coriolanus Snow. It doesn't sound as right. I want to keep saying Cornelius Snow, and I do keep saying Cornelius Snow in my head. Coriolanus. It's basically Cornelius. So Coriolanus Snow is the main character of this book. Obviously he is President Snow in the later trilogy. You get to see where he comes from. He's got a very interesting background, and you can sort of see the arc that this character is going to go on throughout this book. And I'm really, really excited to see it because I think it'll be done really well. I don't know why I had such low expectations for this. I thought it was just a bit of a money grab maybe, but I actually think it really isn't. I think this is a story that she really wanted to tell. I got some notes. Don't ask me my note-taking method. It is the 17th of November. Do you know what that means? That means today is the day that The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is being released in cinemas, and I'm really looking forward to it. Me and my boyfriend are going to go watch it tonight at 8 p.m. And I actually did finish the book a couple of days ago, so I wanted to just pop on and give an update before we went to go watch a movie. I'm very tired. I don't feel like talking today. It's been a long day. Yesterday was a very long day. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to run through a quick spoiler-free review of the book. I do have a few thoughts about it. This book did exceed my expectations. I didn't have the highest expectations for it just because I think when this book was released, a lot of people didn't like it and they didn't get the point of it. They didn't understand why we got a book on President Snow's background when we could have gotten a book about like Phoenix games or Haymitch's games. I actually really enjoyed this book and I found it to be quite informative and well written. So first of all, I think why a lot of people don't like this book is that they come into this book thinking it's a romance, and this book is not a romance. There is a romantic subplot that has romantic elements in it, but it's not a romance. The romance in this book is used to help showcase features and the character arc of Coriolanus Snow. Another reason why people might not like this book is that they think this book is trying to humanize a villain. This book isn't actually trying to do that. A lot of books do tend to try and make you feel sympathy for the villain. This book actually doesn't do that, and some people, I think, get a bit lost in what this book is trying to do. This book is about showing a character's descent into becoming a villain while also still holding them accountable and not trying to make us sympathize with them. The main character in this book is really bad. In the first half of the book, the author writes it so that Snow is seen as like an underdog, and that makes you root for him because people have this tendency to support underdogs. So she writes him in a way that he is basically set as the underdog, and you begin supporting him. But then throughout the book, they slowly bring in his flaws and make them a bit more extreme, little bit by little bit, so that you start to realize, oh, he's not actually a good guy. You were rooting for him at the start, but now you're like, this is feeling a little icky. He's feeling a little icky. And then it just slowly snowballs until you have this very satisfying arc. One thing about this book that I really enjoyed was I loved to see how the games evolved from how they were in here, the 10th games, to how they came to be in the 74th games, which we see in the Hunger Games. It was really interesting seeing a more archaic version of the Hunger Games. And I would say that this book does circle back really well to the original trilogy, what with its symbolism and metaphors. I think that is very satisfying. Some people say that it's a bit on the nose. So if I were to rate this book out of 5 stars, I think I would give it a solid 4 stars. It's a very solid read. I would recommend reading it if you enjoyed the Hunger Games, but go into it knowing that it's not a romance. The epilogue in this book, it boils your blood. Very, very good writing. Now what I want to do is just go into some spoilery thoughts. So if you haven't read the book, this is your time to leave the video. Okay, no, I can't do that. Now, this book is left slightly open-ended, and my thoughts on that, I actually kind of like that it's left open-ended and you don't know what happened to Lucy Gray, whether she died or whether she survived and just left to go live in the wilderness. We'll never know what happened, but I think it works well in this case because it sort of ties in with the ballad that her name is based after. In my mind, I think that she died. So this book is basically an attempt to make us understand how Coriolanus Snow became who he is. It basically shows how he did have some humanity in him, like he was capable of friendship, he was capable of love, but it shows how even people who are capable of those things can still become horrible people at the end of the day. I really liked throughout this book that Snow has these flaws and thoughts, and as the book progresses, they just get progressively worse and more extreme. So like one example is how he really doesn't like the Plinths, even though the Plinths are really great people, they do a lot for him. It was a constant reminder of what Snow's views were towards District's people, and it was very interesting to read. Also how he excuses that Lucy is different, she's not actually District because she's Covey. So frustrating. I am curious how they will handle this in the movies, how they will show his dislike towards District people, because I think it's going to be very tough to display on screen, especially since Snow is a very manipulative character and he never says any of these things outwardly. There's another debate that you can debate about is whether he did or didn't actually love Lucy Gray. Some people said that he just wanted to possess her. Some people said that if he truly loved her, he wouldn't have done the thing that he did at the end. I would say that he did love her to some capacity, but he had love for other things that were more important to him, like his love for power, his love for control. I think that he was more just a controlling character and he likes being in control of things, and Lucy Gray was something that he could be in control over and possess. And it's not very often that you get a possessive character where it's not romanticized. Now what I'm going to talk about is the movie. There's a few things that I'm a bit concerned about for the movie. Now, if you've read this book, you know that it's quite a gruesome book. It's just very disturbing in the way that they handle the tributes. I feel like that gore and violence was necessary to get the point across of how the Capitol treated these children, and I don't know if the movie is going to be able to capture that. I'm really hoping it can. When I read those scenes, they were quite upsetting to me. I was like, this is like really bad. I was like, ooh, this is not fun. Literally like dragging bodies through the street. Don't think they're gonna really show that in the movie because it's PG-13. One character that I really enjoyed in this book was Reaper, and I don't know if he was actually crazy at the end of it or not. It was sort of left a bit open-ended. To me, I felt like he was just sort of processing the trauma of the arena in his own way. So watching the movie tonight, soon. I'm very excited for it. But I will catch you guys tomorrow after I've watched it and had some time to digest and make some notes on it. Get the more.
Oh.
Can I have my bag? Can I have my bag?
What's your bag?
Yes. Thank you.
Oh, the lighting's kind of doughy.
Okay, so from this point onwards, there's going to be quite a few spoilers. So if you don't want to get spoiled for either the book or the movie, then maybe click off the video. It's the next day. We watched the movie last night. I really enjoyed it. I have a lot of thoughts. There were changes, obviously. So me and my boyfriend went to the movies together. He hasn't read the book. I've read the book. So I sort of was able to see and ask him his opinion on a lot of things and whether he was able to understand it without having the knowledge that the book gives you. And he also really enjoyed it. I think he didn't have the highest expectations for it and he didn't think he would enjoy it as much as he did. So from someone who hasn't read the book, he really enjoyed the movie and he could understand what was happening. They really did stick to the source material a lot of the time. A lot of the changes that they did make, you could tell that they made because of the constraints of the movie. The fact that this was only going to be one movie. You can't include everything that was in the book because in this movie it would be like 4 to 5 hours long. So first of all, the biggest thing that they changed is that they didn't really include Sejanus's mother as much as they did in the book. For me, the reason Ma was quite important to the book was that this was sort of the reason that Coriolanus Snow was friends with Sejanus, especially later on in the third part of the book, where they're in District 12. Ma basically sends the baked goods and it's like beneficial to be friends with Sejanus because then you get the baked goods and you get the special treatment, you know, it's beneficial to be friends with the rich boy. Whereas in the movie they made it like Snow actually cared a bit more about Sejanus, and actually after Sejanus gets hung, Snow has a bit of a meltdown in the movie, and I'm pretty sure that didn't happen in the book. I may be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure Snow sort of just brushed it off like, oh well, he was a traitor, who cares. But Snow in the books was a lot worse and a lot more of a negative, narcissistic, and just evil person in the books, because especially since we got the inner monologue in the books. In the movies you don't get to see that as much, so we didn't get any inner dialogue from the character throughout the film. So basically you had to rely on your own interpretation of what Snow was thinking and feeling through the actors' expressions, which were done really well. Another big thing that they changed is that there were no funeral scenes. But basically in the book there were 2 funeral scenes, and the reason that these were quite important in the book was it was sort of showcasing, look at how the Capitol treats these kids as corpses. They drag them through the street, they strung them up like they were in a butcher shop. You didn't have the funeral scene, so that wasn't there. But you did have the scene with Marcus. It wasn't as gruesome as it was described in the books. Obviously there's a PG-13 rating. They did have the mercy killing that Lamina does on Marcus, and it was quite a sweet moment. They did show it was a mercy killing because in the book that was sort of left up to interpretation. I didn't interpret it as a mercy killing. Marcus didn't have as big of an impact as he did in the book because we didn't get to see him and Sejanus's friendship as much, or lack of friendship. Sejanus in general didn't hit as hard as he did in the books, just because there wasn't that much time and the movie decided to rather focus on Coriolanus and Lucy Gray. One scene that had me choked up, I was sitting in the cinema, my throat was sore, I had tears welling in my eyes. One of the tributes, Reaper, if you've read the book you'll know who Reaper is. He's one of the last ones that remain standing, and he sort of creates this morgue of all the dead tributes. They make it more intentional in the movie and he's not as passive in the movie, and it was really, really beautiful. It was a beautiful scene. And in the movie he died from the snakes rather than Lucy Gray killing him, and Lucy Gray was basically the only one who survived the snakes, and that is how she won. They did change the way tributes died here and there. They did keep similar elements, they just sort of rearranged it a bit. So the drones did play a part in the arena. We did have the snakes come in. So Lucy Gray's character was changed just a little bit. In the books, Lucy Gray was a bit more active in how she killed people. She poisoned a few more people. So she did end up killing one of the weaker tributes, one of the younger kids, by accident by poisoning a water bottle, which did happen in the book. And she felt more remorse for it because she watched it happen in the movie. But she also intentionally killed one of the other district kids when they were hunting her down, which didn't happen in the book. In the book, she poisoned the water source that Reaper was drinking from. It was a bit more passive again. In the movie, it was a bit more active, as in self-defense active and not malicious and sneaky like she wanted to win active. In the books, she was a bit more of a morally grey character, whereas in the sense that she did do what it took to win the games. It wasn't very obvious that like Coriolanus sort of was very possessive of Lucy Gray, because in the books, you can sort of debate, does he actually love her or does he love the idea of being in control of her? And in the movie, that's not very apparent. It looks like he loves her a lot more, and he sort of overthunk that she would betray him to the peacekeepers about the fact that he killed the mayor's daughter Mayfair. So him being a little bit more unhinged and like trying to kill her in the woods and hunting her down is a bit more excusable in the movie than it was in the books, where he just sort of went deranged. The scene where Brandy slits Arachne's throat was really well done. It was very out of the blue like it was in the books, because for me that was a huge moment in the books. Again, it was also a moment I was very worried about in the movie, because it was sort of, for me, the pivotal moment in the book where you realized, oh, this is like very serious. It was the first escalation of violence that you see in the book. They did a really good job. I think they even made it a bit more gruesome in the movie. My boyfriend turns to me, he's like, was that in the books? And I was like, yes, it was in the books. One change that I have that I'm a bit confused on why they did do this change, I don't really understand it. At the very start of the movie, you have this opening scene where they introduce a few elements, like the fact that there was a war in the capital and that they didn't have food. They bring up the fact that there was cannibalism, and they also sort of introduce the rabies theme, because rabies are important later on with Jessup. So in the books, Jessup gets rabies from being in the zoo, from a rat or a raccoon, I can't remember, but he gets it from being bit by something in the zoo. This is important because it shows that there are rabies in the capital, especially because a lot of the capital citizens thought Jessup brought the rabies in from the districts, because the districts, you know, they're dingy, disgusting, of course they would have rabies, and now they brought rabies into the capital, which isn't the case, because he got rabies from the capital zoo. That's where he got bit. But in the movie, they changed it to he got bit on the train ride in by a bat. I don't know why they changed it, because how they did it in the movie is they showed a bat leaving the train as the tributes were getting off, and then later on in the movie, Lucy says, no, I think he got bit by a bat on the train. You could have done the exact same thing where you show like a rat in the zoo, and then later on in the movie, Lucy says, no, I think he got bit by a rat here in the zoo. I don't know why they changed it. Another small change, very understandable change. I can excuse it. At the start of the Hunger Games, as the horn blows, there's not a bloodbath. The tributes just sort of scuttle off and hide, and it is the most boring start to the Hunger Games. It was just a stalemate, basically, because these kids did not want to kill each other. They're not bloodthirsty animals that are out for blood. I can understand why they had to change it. They changed it because, which is ironic, they changed it because we have to keep the audience entertained. So the film also kept to the 3-act structure that the book had, which means that they did separate into 3 parts, and they made it very obvious the parts. So as part 1 started, they said part 1, the mentor. Part 3 was definitely the most fast-paced and rushed one. It could be a little rushed, but it was also rushed in the books, that's the thing. Rushed as in it went faster than the first 2 parts of the book. I think it could get confusing if you don't have the knowledge that the book gives you on what's happening in the 3rd part, especially when it comes to the plotline with Mayfair, Billy, and Spruce. If you weren't paying that much attention, I think it'd be difficult to put that together, that, oh, now Coriolanus is in danger of the gun being found and him being tied to the murder weapon. So that's why he gets so stressed out, because it's like they found Spruce, they're going to find the guns. Whereas in the books, it's a bit more apparent that Coriolanus is leaving because he's worried for his own life, and it's more out of self-preservation than love. The Covi weren't a huge part in the movie, which is understandable because it's the final third of the movie. You can't really be introducing new characters at that stage and hoping that the audience remembers who they are. So they were sort of nameless faces in the movie that Lucy just hung out with, and you sort of saw, oh, this is the family she mentioned earlier in the movie. Obviously in the 3rd part of the book, we go into the whole catching the Mockingjays and the difference between Jabberjays and Mockingjays. And you really get to see why Coriolanus doesn't like Mockingjays compared to Jabberjays. He likes Jabberjays because they're good, they've been made by the capital, they sort of listen to the rules, they're useful. Emphasis on useful. He loves things that are useful, whereas Mockingjays are like this abomination of the districts, where the Jabberjays mated with Mockingbirds and now there's Mockingjays. He really doesn't like them in the books. It is very potent in the books. Some people say it's a bit on the nose that he doesn't like Mockingjays in the books. Whereas in the movie, it's way more toned down. You don't know why he doesn't like Mockingjays. They do show that he doesn't really like them. And I think if you haven't read the books and you weren't paying that much attention to the dialogue, because Dr. Gould does explain what a jabberjay does, and if you notice that it is a jabberjay, it wasn't called a mockingjay, then you would know that they're two different birds. But if you weren't paying attention, I think you would actually end up thinking that jabberjays and mockingjays are the same thing. Coriolanus likes the jabberjays, but he really doesn't like the mockingjays. That doesn't really come across that much in the movie. They do mention the mockingjays, and they do sort of show that he has a dislike to them, but not as intense of a dislike as in the book. In the book, he hated those birds. So I think that's it that I have to say. So yeah, that is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, don't forget to leave a like and hit subscribe. And if you want to be notified every time I upload, then turn on post notifications. And if you want to follow me, you can find me on Instagram. I'm very active on Instagram, post a lot on Instagram. You can go follow me there. I will see you guys all next week Sunday with another video. And yeah, bye guys.